Portal is an IP built off a select few things. Source physics, an ominous atmosphere, ambient techno music, witty and dry humor.
Did you know that people with guilty consciences are more easily startled by loud noises?
And an overall fantastic story with rich character development. Most of you already knew that, unless you're in the same age demographic as the people who are hyped for the next Garden of Banban release.
Dude, this kid... What?
Anyways, Portal was originally meant to be a simple addition to the Orange Box, which was a game collection sold by Valve containing titles such as Half-Life 2, its first and second expansion episodes, and Team Fortress 2. Portal, when stacked up to these colossal games, shouldn't have even had a chance at standing out. However, due to its charming writing, unique gameplay loop, and mysterious story, it stayed in the minds of many who bought and played the collection. Due to this, it became one of the best-selling Valve titles of all time, which warranted immediate development of its sequel, which 4 years later smashed records once again. The fact that it hasn't had a mainline entry since 2011 has left many wondering, will we ever get another entry into the Portal series? The answer is... probably. You see, Valve don't just make games to make them. Normally they have something important to show off, which in turn resorts to them actually releasing something. Half-Life Alyx, for example, showed everyone that VR games don't just have to be silly little sandboxes or quirky job simulators, but instead can have actual storylines and massive interactive worlds. Aperture Tag showed that they're releasing new games with features that are exclusive to their new console, the Steam Deck. With the release of CS2, Valve introduced their new subtick system. Of course, it's had its early bugs, but given a couple years to iron out all the kinks, I think it could very well revolutionize the FPS genre. So, to sum it all up, Valve don't just swing and hope they make contact on the metaphorical ball that is game development. They're always aiming for the fences. There's a very good chance that Valve will release a new Portal entry in the near future. But what's left for us Portal fans now in the wake of another...
Are you making Portal 3? Shut the f*** up.
Well, due to the fact that Portal 2 came out in 2011 and supported mod development shortly after release, the community has had plenty of time to develop a wide variety of these mods, ranging from short experimental tech demos to outright whole new storylines, some even including new mechanics. Though personally, I find it's pretty hard to gauge what a mod has to offer just based on Steam store descriptions and short promotional videos. So, I played an entire week of Portal mods, and from my experiences in them, mostly very strenuous, I intend to lay out anything I found remarkable about them, any issues I had with them, as well as their target audiences, so that you the player can better choose which one you think fits what you want in your Portal experience.
Ridiculous, really.
This mod was released in 2015, 4 years after the official release of Portal 2, and is probably one of the most well-known in terms of its playtime and storytelling. It follows the story of a 1950s Olympian named Mel, who during the story gets put into a sleep and wakes up in the distant future somewhere between Portal 1 and Portal 2. She wakes up in a somewhat deteriorating Aperture and meets a personality core named Virgil, who helps her throughout the facility. On their journey through decaying test chambers and offices, they look for a way Mel can escape, eventually running into the Aperture-ran security system called Aegis, which has detected a life form roaming throughout the facility and therefore must neutralize it for the safety of the Aperture scientists, whom GLaDOS has killed long ago. The main story runs about 4 hours, with you narrowly avoiding Aegis's traps.
Mel, are you alright?
Side note, if you fall for them, you get an achievement. Yeah! I got the achievement. You eventually make it to the security system's server rooms, and in a timed battle, destroy the servers with this janky-ass turret you repurposed.
Not the most fun mechanic to use, by the way.
Are you fuck? Mel then enters Aegis through its access panel, to which she finds out Aegis's main directive wasn't just to protect the scientists through neutralizing small threats, its build intent was to kill GLaDOS. You then begin the sequence to shut the facility's reserve power down using its last bit to finally escape through an elevator. However, during a post-credit scene, it cuts back to Aegis's terminal, alerting that since the reserves are being depleted, it is waking all subjects in stasis, and the only one remaining being Shell, thus connecting this mod to the start of Portal 2. I like Mel's story, I like Mel's writing and character performances.
Let's start guessing passwords. Password.
I like its ruined environment. Holy! And the soundtrack is fantastic. The only thing that really holds it back is the M1 Abrams tank chained to its leg that is its difficulty. The mod's difficulty scaling picks up almost exactly where Portal 2 left off, which makes sense given the fact that the mod is meant for people to play after they've already finished the 2 main games. Thus, the game is going to be a lot harder because it's actually for people who are seeking a challenge. However, I want jump through hole go wee music go. Sitting in a single test chamber for upwards of 45 minutes makes me want to look into the operational end of the device. I personally enjoyed Portal when the game left you in a test chamber to ponder on the story plot being given to you. Not the sullen ambiance while you're trapped in a room desperately trying to figure a puzzle out, slowly getting more and more aggravated. Oh man, dude, that was so fun. It's so fucking cool, dude, it's so fucking... Which is how the majority of my playthrough went. The chambers themselves were legitimately stressing me out to the point where each one I completed was whittling down the sanity I had left, to the point where I would have to quit playing the game and come back later, which I did about 4 times. I also forgot to mention the test chambers I played during my time in Mel aren't even the hardest ones in the mod. Originally, the test chambers created for the mod were much harder, heralding overwhelming criticism from reviewers and the Portal community alike. Thus, the developers decided to make an easier set of chambers so that people could complete the mod. These were the ones that I played, which in turn means that I am dumber than the devs could have even fathomed. By the way, if for some reason you hate yourself and want to be cast into the puzzle hell of the original levels, they're still available. They're just listed under the advanced section in the menu. All in all, I think Portal Stories Mel isn't for the faint of heart or even for people who have just played the main entries in the story and are looking for something else in the same vein. It seems obviously the target demographic for the mod were those who are looking for a challenge. So if you're one of those mutant brain masochists, the mod is free, and so are the challenge levels. So by all means, have at it. Just remember, the shrimp warned you. But on a more serious note, I really think that for the first large Portal mod, Mel tackled some huge obstacles and really set an amazing example for other modders to build off of. So, I give it 7 sea urchins out of 10. For those who also felt the mental strain of trying to complete Portal Stories Mel, I raise you the best Portal mod I have ever played. Portal Revolution was made by a small team of developers over the course of 8 years, nearly following the release of Portal Stories Mel. Also, taking heavy inspiration from it not only to simply recreate or implement various aspects, but to drastically improve on them. Like Mel, this mod is also set between the first and second Portal, and follows a test subject awoken from stasis in a ruined aperture by a core. But instead of merely dabbling in the ambiance of the ruined aperture, it thrives in it. Personally, I enjoyed the introductory part of Portal 2 so much because of this exact environment. Revolution took that and gave it the
Fission
works, man. Like, look at this. It is insane how much graphical fidelity they were able to milk from the CSGO source engine. Oh yeah, by the way, this game is built on CSGO source engine. So that means air strafing, bee hopping. You're no longer locked in a direction after you reach a certain speed threshold. You are able to freely move at whatever unit speed you want. It made the game feel a lot more flowy and not as jarring when I would get stuck and slammed into a wall because I passed 320 units. So what other than its engine makes this mod unique? Suction tubes. These tubes were actually meant to be featured in Portal 2, which was shown in the early builds of the game, and can still be seen on a Valve release trailer for the game titled Pneumatic Diversity Vent. I don't know why it has to be that complicated. At some point during development, they were removed from the game, instead only being featured in scripted segments and to transport testing elements into the chambers. The Revolution devs took that concept and made it a key gameplay element. It can basically pick you up and toss you like a Hot Wheels car launcher. It can suck up various gels, it can transport cubes, it can even be paired with your portals to have a suction power on any surface you can shoot on. This, however, isn't the only new addition in the mod. They also added paired laser cubes. Stick a laser in one end, get a laser out of the other. It's a very simple concept, which I'm gonna be honest, I thought was in Portal 2 to begin with, And upon replaying it recently, I found out I'm a genius and thought of this concept like 3 years ago in a really weird dream, and then woke up and just assumed it was fact. I actually felt that these cubes made it a little bit too easy to solve some chambers, but there were some in which the cubes had to be thrown through your portals where they're pretty unique and tickled some weird part of my brain. Dude, that is so
Fishing.
cool. Another very simple yet very effective addition was legit just adding a light switch which would turn off the power in any given test chamber. I genuinely struggled on some of the power switch chambers, one specifically where you have to set up a cube on an aerial faith plate, then turn on the power to send the cube through a set of angled portals up to a button, otherwise blocked by an emancipation grid.
Thank God.
All these elements being added would topple the difficulty scaling for most mods, but the Revolution dev team, through ample playtesting, was actually able to wrangle almost the same difficulty scaling as in Portal 2, which in turn made the mod feel like an actual Portal game instead of an arrangement of community-made chambers. The devs also paid close attention to audio engineering in creating this mod. While you go throughout the chambers using the different objects and tools given to you, such as cubes, lasers, light bridges, and grav beams, they all emit a separate music track.
Cube is playing music.
Normally, they're given to the key object needed to complete the chamber, but in some cases, multiple will have their own track and thus will play in harmony.
Wait, do you play songs too? It does.
This complements the overall background music for the given chamber and cements the music physically into the world. It's a really unique concept and fits in perfectly given the fact that music has always been a key element to Portal games. The devs even took it upon themselves to reach out to Mike Morasky, the composer of Portal 2's soundtrack, to pick his brain on his creative process while the production of the mod was still ongoing. The interview is about an hour long and reveals some inner workings at Valve. It's super interesting, and I highly recommend giving it a watch/listen through. Anyways, if you're here to get a rundown of the main story plots of the mod, I'm not going to disclose them, as I feel most people just need to go play it. Trust me, like, the mod's longer runtime is well worth it, and I mean, the devs literally shipped it for free. Like, the game is 8 hours long, and it took 8 years to create. Let me reiterate, they shipped it for free. This mod is the reason why I made this video to begin with, and I truly believe that this is the penultimate Portal experience outside of an official Valve release. So, if you're looking for that same kid-like feeling of soaring through the Aperture air, completing fun, multi-element puzzles, with industrial techno blaring in your ears, all while being told an excellent story, this mod is for you. Therefore, I rate it 10 shrimps out of 10. To round out my bag of Portal 2 mods, I felt as though a for fun mod was an arrangement. And after completing Aperture Tag, fun was the most incongruent word I could have possibly associated with this hellscape. Are you It, like the other mods, also starts with you being awoken by a core in a relaxation vault. Very adventurous. To which you are then thrown from test to test to test to test to test to test to test. With little to no exposition or storytelling along the entire game, it is legitimately grueling to play this mod.
Oh my God.
The gel mechanic introduced in the old Aperture section of Portal 2 is the star of the show in Aperture Tag. The mechanic to me was the most aggravating part of Portal 2, only really having a few shining moments where its use was genuinely really cool. The downside to the gel's use is that it relies on the jankiness of the source engine to hold up and keep you moving in the direction you want.
No! Oh.
And also an experienced mapper to make the puzzles understandable in order for you to have a fluid puzzling experience. You get it? Fluid? Gels? Being the only resource you have to maneuver the test chambers, and the fact that almost all the test chambers in this mod are made out of giant blocks, made Tag quite possibly the worst puzzling experience I've ever had in a video game. Almost every time I had to clear a gap in a test chamber, I felt as though I didn't have enough speed. Which most of the time I didn't. But on the off chance I did, I had to power through random instances of the gel just flat out not working. To sum it up easily, I found out the blue gel has a hitbox, which if you speed into it fast enough, i.e. on orange gel, and jump at the right time, you'll do something similar to this.
What?
Also, side note, for some reason every single test chamber in this game has a water trap surrounding it, I'd equate the experience to like eating a spoonful of unflavored yogurt. It's just very bland and you kind of just have to like wait it out till it's over. All in all, this game took me about 3 hours to complete due to the fact that there aren't any portals, so thus the gameplay loop is pretty unintuitive. And it doesn't help that past the first 3 chambers, the devs don't really hold your hand at all. And I'll admit it, being that I am an avid Counter-Strike player and happen to surf a decent bit.
I don't know if I want to go through this. This height is way higher than I thought.
I was mainly drawn to this mod from seeing a surf ramp in its trailer on Steam. I made it through most of the game and was elated to finally see it in all of its blocky, non-smooth geometrical glory.
Ramp! Ramp!
To which I hopped on, ready to finally fulfill my dream of surfing in a Portal game. Only for the game to shove a big ol' spoonful of unflavored yogurt right into my gob. The game did not have Eric Cell enabled, therefore the only way to ride the ramps is to just hold W. This, however, isn't ever shown in a tooltip, so I just figured that it was a quirk with the Portal source engine, so I continued holding A or D until I would just eventually slam my way across each ramp, completing them.
Oh, that's it.
I mean, I get why they did it. It would be pretty hard to teach people how to surf in a 3-hour Portal mod. The use of ramps really only shines in one specific chapter where there's this timed chase scene, which is supposed to be the most suspenseful and epic part of the mod. But once again, at this point, I still didn't know that you just had to hold W on every single ramp. So thus I failed this section many times.
Not to mention it has a pre-recorded voice line that plays at the beginning every single time you fail.
Eventually, I embarrassingly made it through the section expecting it to be the grand finale of the mod, to which I was once again disappointed as it threw me right into another
Fission
chamber. This mod misdirected me in so many ways, and the developers did not lean into any storytelling elements whatsoever. It makes sense as they wanted the portalist chambers to be the main focal point of the mod, but basically they copy-pasted the entire storyline of Portal 1 minus the behind-the-scenes escape at the end.
Never mind, actually they did that too. The ending is equally as disappointing.
I genuinely thought I glitched the game because I tried to escape and fell into a seemingly never-ending screen of orange. So I reloaded my save, which then put me back on the platform, which hit the end of its track and just dropped me right back into the same, I'm not even kidding by the way, 2-minute long orange screen slowly getting more red until it just goes to black. And the game just ends there. This mod at every turn pissed me off to no end. I was practically begging for it to be over, and although the ending was lackluster, it finally freed me from the purgatory I put myself in. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, this is the only paid mod on this list. I paid $5 to suffer through this so you don't have to.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I am more than happy to pay to support developers who hold up communities for games such as Portal, which haven't had new content in a decade at this point. But the fact that this was the only mod which straight up front asked for money while bringing the least amount of content to the table was a little aggravating. I mean, the mod straight up copies the plot points of the original Portal just to drop you into a pit at the end and go GG. While being marketed on Steam as having a full campaign with 27 original chambers.
Oh, the soundtrack was made by Harry? Alright, yeah, give it like 2 points. Okay, alright.
To its credit, this mod also is extremely old, releasing a year before Mel did. And I do also really appreciate that they included a level editor into the mod so people can play around with their own chambers. They really didn't have to do that. And it also is the only mod that has ever been made for Portal 2 using the gel mechanic as the sole puzzling tool. But, I mean, after playing it at this point, I think that's probably for good reason. So if you're a Portal fan who has played both games and most of the mods and is looking for a short break from the usual Portal game loop, this mod has you covered. If you're looking for anything beyond that, you'll be pretty disappointed. But hey, if you think that's for you, go for it. After all, I'm just a
Fission
shrimp. I rate it 4 sea cucumbers out of 10. During the Steam Demo Fest, which was held during October of last year, I played through a handful of lesser-known demos on stream. In my peruse through the featured list, I came across a game called Artificial. I hadn't read any reviews, nor had I read the description on the Steam page before playing,
but during my playthrough I immediately felt the spirit of a Portal / Half-Life seeping through almost every inch of its simple puzzles. Most are pretty rudimentary: scan box here, move obstacle there, knock over turret, break your fall with boxes.
Womp.
You can also break locks by throwing objects. I thought that was a pretty nice touch. They're very tight-knit and charming mechanics, but nothing really too groundbreaking. Also, this may be a weird note to add, and I'm not sure if it boils down to the size of the levels or the scale of the objects around you, but the game came off really cozy to me. It may just be the fact that I really enjoy playing games with the low poly stylization, but it may also be the warm colors that the game sports in pretty much all of its environment. I think this game has an insane amount of potential, and obviously has a very passionate indie developer working on it. The story and lore already present in the game is pretty extensive, to the point where I couldn't even unlock all of it. You can really feel the love being poured into the game's universe even in the short demo. The only critique I have is that the Unity movement feels really floaty and weird sometimes, but that's also tied into the story, as the game is meant to be set in a space mining facility located deep in an asteroid, which is slowly being migrated to Earth. To me, it's really refreshing to see an indie developer who obviously was very inspired by games such as Portal 2 and Half-Life making a story-driven puzzling game of their own. So, if you've listened to all this and you think you're interested, I'll leave a link to its listing on the Steam store in the description if you want to throw it on your wish lists.
Oh my god, that just opened Steam.
I can't really go into more depth with the game, as obviously it's just a demo, but I'm really excited to see where this game will end up given how fun it was to play at such an early stage.